Feudalism was the most important structure during the Middle Ages. It was the system in which all of Europe governed themselves. It was a self-sufficient system that consisted of lords and vassals. Feudalism was a system of governing that put the power on the most local level. It created a self-sustaining government, whereby the most local lord, who you owe allegiance to, the central authority that used to fall under the king's reign, was erased by feudalism. The structure of feudalism was based on the lord-vassal relationship. The lord would provide his vassal with economic support in the form of a fee for benefits, which are often in the form of land and a salary. In exchange for the fee for benefits, the vassal would swear an oath of homage and fealty. The vassal and lord were heavily reliant on one another as they provided each other with power and wealth. One could not have existed without the other. Being a vassal entailed a myriad of responsibilities owed to the lord. You must provide your lord with aid, which was typically military service, but could take the form of financial service. You'd also have to provide his lord with counsel in matters of warfare and politics. Relief must also be provided to the lord, which consisted of gifts to keep the fief hereditary and pass it on to your kids. Lastly, you must provide the king with a board or lodging along with his tenants. This was called purveyance. The structure of feudalism was that of a pyramid. It could be more accurately put that it was a system of interlapping circles with varying degrees of responsibility. This was due to the fact that a vassal may have multiple liege lords he owed allegiances to. This being one of the major cons to feudalism, and it caused many problems. The pyramid system was headed by the king, who in theory had the most power, but it was not unknown for him to be weaker than his vassals. Below the king was the duke and count, or the earl and marquis. Then came the viscount or baron. The viscounts or baron would have knights under them, who had squires under them. Lastly, the peasants or serfs would be the lowest on the pyramid, and they provided a source of labor. Due to the pyramid system of feudalism, medieval Europe was riddled with local wars and feuds for power. The local lord held the most power over his subjects, because the subject never saw the king in their lifetime. So to gain more power, lords would constantly fight with other lords to gain land and such. This caused many problems because vassals often had multiple lords. This was settled when the church sponsored the Crusades to get the lords to stop fighting amongst themselves. Crusades strengthened the unity of Europe to some extent. The most important economic unit in feudalism was a village. It reflected the nature of feudalism in that it was also self-sufficient. This was due to the fact that most people didn't travel more than an area of 20 miles from where they were born, so they needed to be able to take care of themselves. In this system, there was a major class distinction known as a corporate society. This system made it so each person had a role with no capacity to rise and rank. At the heart of the village was the manor, more commonly known as the castle or the palace. This is where the lord would hold his courts. The lord would provide the peasants with protection along with his knights. He would also provide the village with buildings such as the wine mill, the grain mill, the bakery, and more. In turn, the peasants would provide food, production, and labor for roads, buildings, teething, and would also be used as an army during war times. The peasant class was predominantly farmers. Strips of farmland were divided amongst the peasantry. Thus, many innovations to farming were made during this time. These include the moldboard, the horse collar, the horseshoe, the stirrup, and more. The peasants used the three-field system, in which 2 fields were planted and 1 were left fallow to allow the nutrients to grow back. Feudalism was a very important part in history and helped to shape the Western world to what it is today. Without feudalism,